Good afternoon. Hi, this is Gregory T. Roberts. Welcome to Torn Into, your show for news and information and more for this day, April 9th, 2021. I want to thank you for listening to the program on 103.7 The Beat. You can also catch the program on M106. If you would like to get involved in the program with your questions, you can go to our Facebook sites on WVS 103.7 WVS and M106. Today's weather is 52 degrees, rain, showers, scattered showers, high of 60, low of 46 in the ski. Tomorrow, high of 70, rain, 96% chance of rain. Wind coming out of the east southeast, 12 miles per hour. Expect those showers. Chance of rain, 100%. We got some news. Of course, if you don't know, DMX at the age passed away. More information on that. Just Earl Simmons was his original name, birth name. He passed away. In England, Prince Philip has passed away. If you know Prince Philip, he is the husband of Queen Elizabeth II. Now, let's get to it today. To my guest, my first guest today. I am so honored to have this guest. She served on the 92nd in Lansing. Just quite a lot of things right now. She currently serves on the Muskegon County Commission, and she will tell you, I believe it's District 2. With this, I want to say this and make this very clear. If you got questions, bring those questions out. If you would like to go on the show and talk about those questions, or we will get you on, call Lady Janae or Lady J at 231-727-5007. And excuse me, a little hoarse today, but we're going to get to the interview. So my first guest is County Commissioner Marsha Hovey Wright. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Greg. Thank you.
We're honored. Thank you so much for coming on. You do a lot for this community. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the interview.
Oh, sure. Well, I was a school social worker. I was a psychotherapist in private practice. I worked for Blue Cross, and I was director of Planned Parenthood a long time ago. I served in the legislature for 6 years, representing the 92nd District, and I'm in my second term as county commissioner here in Muskegon in District 2, which is all along the lakeshore from the Channel to the Old Y.
And that would be my area. So thank you for the job that you do. So as I say every week, let's break the glass and get rid of the smoke and talk about some truth. There's been a lot of things happening on the county commission, and let's get caught up on some of the things that have been going on. Okay.
Yeah, it's been very crazy, particularly in the last couple of weeks. Two things come to mind that kind of rise to the top. One is a motion by Commissioner Pago, who represents Holton and up north area, for 4 districts of the county to leave the county. She thinks, or she makes the accusation that they aren't getting their share of taxes. And I think, if that's true, we need to check that out. I don't think it's true. I don't, they don't provide a lot of, it's a low tax area in Holton, in that area. But if it's true, we'll find out, and that needs to be fixed. But I don't think it's true. And she mentioned the roads, and that's nothing that comes before the county commission. That's the road commission. She mentioned 4 districts. 2 of them she had not even approached the representatives, Mr. Sear and Commissioner Brown.
Mm-hmm.
That's Whitehall and North Muskegon area. And they ended up voting against it. Many supervisors and township people contacted Chair Bob Skolnick to
Mm-hmm.
say that they didn't want to be a part of this, and these are people in those districts. So I'm sure there are people that want that, believe that misinformation, but it's very disturbing because I don't think she even realized. Oh, and Mr. Laring did second the motion. It was not presented in writing. It
Mm-hmm.
came as a shock to all of us, and she shouldn't have been able to get away with that. In the future, we'll make sure that things are presented in writing ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
But things like public safety, jail, the courts, the sheriff, wastewater, tax collection, mental health, public health, tourism, prosecutor, public works, vet services, senior services, all those are provided by the county.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to, apparently provide them themselves with their low tax base. And the ironic thing is that the county just gave Fruitport, which is Laring's district, a huge tax break for their for economic development.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting a big windfall there, and somehow he thinks that you're not getting his share. It's total misinformation and very unfortunate. And it would take 95% of or 75% of the public voting to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's unheard of. The lawyer that I talked to for the county said she's never seen it in the 15 years or however many, 12 years she's been a lawyer, for municipal lawyer. So it's bizarre. The county lines are decided at the state level, not the local level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hopefully this will die its natural death. We'll see.
And they're welcome to come on the show and talk
Mhm.
on their reasons why, and we'll have you back. So,
Well,
Tony,
let me just say, the other issue that drew a lot of public comment was the county chair, Bob Skolnick, declared a local state of emergency, which allowed the county and other municipal districts or councils to have virtual meetings. They could have them. They didn't have to. They just it allowed them to,
mm-hmm.
and it had nothing to do with schools or bars or any other amenities that people enjoy using. It had nothing to do with that. It just allows us to have virtual meetings. And as the lawyer pointed out, if we were to have in-face meetings instead, then if too many people showed up, we would have to move the location of the meeting or reschedule it, which tells me, they were still talking about this even after that was disclosed to us,
Right.
that they really want to disrupt government. There's no, positive outcome here. They were questioning the use of masks, that they, caused pneumonia, that vaccines were dangerous. Unfortunately, there are people that believe the information that's out there on social media and QAnon and Fox News and others, and they're not taught perhaps critical thinking or critical research to get, they're like, for some reason, they're more susceptible to believing that misinformation. And Mr. Laring is at the top of the list there. He puts out a ton of incorrect and damaging information.
I'd love to have him on. I would really love to have him on. So all this has happened after the election.
Right. Actually, both of those two issues, it's just in the past couple of weeks.
Right.
And they've, dominated our meetings, so they last like 3 hours long, and same people say the same thing over and over, repetitive. So I really encourage people that are more critical thinkers, maybe to come on the make your voices heard on the public comment on agenda items, so that we hear more from both sides.
Such as Bob Skolnick did a responsible thing. It's safer and just ease for others to attend, have virtual meetings. Thank you for that comment.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I totally agree. And I appreciate her, Merelda, calling in here. He did do the responsible thing, and he knew it would be controversial, but he did it anyway because, just the night before, the hospital had
Was that capacity, over capacity?
Well, it was at capacity. The ER was in crisis mode. And the courts announced that they were pulling back to phase 1, which meant no face-to-face court hearings.
Mhm.
And so the numbers are going up again. Unfortunately, we were getting them under control since November, and they were going way down. And then lately, they're gone up about a third of how high they were in November. So it's very concerning, and I'm hoping that it won't be very long lasting. This is that new virulent variant that is affecting Muskegon County, and we just, I don't think it'll be very long. I don't think it'll be more than, well, I won't even say, because I thought it was just going to be a couple of weeks in the beginning, but
Mhm.
I was just reading today in the paper that things will start to open up this summer,
Right.
maybe early summer. So let's hope that's true. And we're not going to be able to do it if we don't take responsible measures now, like wearing masks, like getting vaccines. Right now, we're only at like in the 20% of the population have vaccines.
Mhm.
It's more than that for the senior, more vulnerable populations. But until we get more people vaccinated, we really need to buckle down still. And I don't like wearing masks either, but and staying away from social places. But we just have to hunker down. It's
Mhm.
it's a
Well,
reality we have to live with.
it's reality, and it's the thing that we have that we do. If we're going to get to the end of that finish line, it's going to have to go back to love that neighbor and do what's best for your neighbor. You said something to me as we were preparing the show. It goes under the category, so you think you want to serve in politics. You have received death threats.
Well, the whole council has received threats of violence. We've been called everything under the sun, negative. We've been told we don't represent the people, which it's true. We don't represent the people that speak up at those meetings. They're very well organized. We have to be equally organized. We have even Mr. Laring talked about gouging our eyes. I mean, it's beyond the pale, and it's not fun. I got to say, it's not fun. Hopefully, this will calm down and things will be more normal again. But lately, it's not been fun at all.
How do you see, or do you see that they will be willing to work with the other side of the aisle, work with you guys on getting things done for the county?
Well, I mean, there are issues that we can work together on, and I think we need to look hard at what those are, and not focus on these very divisive issues. Although some things, like we had to do the local emergency, that was the responsible thing to do, despite the fact that it showed the division in the council or in the commission. But there are things. When I worked in the legislature, I was in the minority for 6 years,
Right.
and I had to find issues that we could work on and serve the people, and I did. I developed a package of bills that gave rights to kids in foster care, and some protection issues for people who were victims of spouse abuse or predatory behavior. some insurance issues. There are a number of bills that I was able to get through and or introduce that did have bipartisan support. So you have to look a little harder and not go for the, the inflammatory issues.
But needless to say, the secession caught everybody off guard.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. I mean, and people were turning their cameras off right and left, staff and commissioners, because they didn't want anybody to see their reactions. They were the same as mine, but they did not. Yeah, so yeah, it was like, what?
Your
Nuts.
reaction was kind of strong, but we can't repeat it.
No, you're right, and I did apologize, and yes.
What do you see? Let's look at what are the needs right now for the county going on right now, as you see it.
Yeah, well, we need to get the airport into a position of not losing any more money. We have hired a firm to do that, and I hope it works. I was not in support of that because I don't believe in privatization, but that's what's in place. We also have to get the MAT system under financial, a better financial situation, and we are working on that. We're in the process of getting the not dial ride, the microtransit. It's kind of like Uber in a group of 4 or 5 in a little minibus, and it's door-to-door service, which I think will be a great service for a lot of people.
Now wait a minute.
That's in process.
There was an issue with busing on the county commission.
Yeah. Well, but the MAT system also was in a deficit situation for the last couple of years. This past year, it was not, but largely because of COVID grants, and we cut back. We redid the routing, the fixed routes, after doing an extensive study and getting a lot of public input, and so that's, I think, on better footing, and hopefully we'll get this situation with the microtransit buses up and running. And we need to Health West, who I'm on their board, I'm on the finance committee there. They are doing everything they can to keep the costs down and provide excellent service. Unfortunately, the state, which was requiring us to provide services, was not paying adequately for them. So it created a loss that the county had to help with. And we think there's a solution for that with the new head of the DHHS at the state level, Ms. Hertel. And she is apparently recognizing that we were not paid adequately, and that has to be fixed. And it is a large amount. It's like $12 million. So it's not a mismanagement in any way, shape, or form. It's the state not paying what they required us to provide in a way that, we could do it financially. So those are 3 things. I think in our meetings, they need to be tightened up. We are not following all of our own rules. So I think we need to, all of us, learn those rules better and require that the public follow the rules, because they just, we're violating the rules right and left.
So if an issue is supposed to be brought up in the county commission, isn't that issue supposed to be put in writing before the council?
Yes. And I mentioned that the whole secession issue was not presented in writing. And there are others that haven't been presented in writing. Laring just kind of, throws stuff out there. And they've been able to get away with it. And we need to really clamp down on that. That's a chairmanship job, but everybody needs to know that rule.
Mhm.
And perhaps they didn't know that rule. I don't know. So yeah, and we should see it in advance. There's no way that we should be surprised like we were for that.
Mr.
Um,
Laring, I do want you to know that this is not a Democrat or a Republican. This is a show about the truth. We would love to get you on. Um, Marshall, uh, Commissioner, how has COVID affected you guys other than meetings, the county?
Well, we've had to shut down many of the services. A lot of people had to be, were on furlough. Uh, it it's difficult to get services because there just aren't enough staff. Either they were on furlough, or they got sick themselves, or they didn't have childcare, or there's a number of, I'm not sure of the number, but I know at Health West there's a huge number of positions that are not filled. Like
Wow.
at least a quarter, probably a third
Wow.
of the positions. And I haven't seen figures on the county, but I'm sure that it's just hard to hire people right now, particularly people with skills and uh, or experience. So I think that's true for almost probably every department, that they're understaffed, and the people that are working there are under a lot of pressure. And we've tried to increase salaries in some places where that seemed appropriate. And it'll be a while before we pull out from under this.
What about the jail? I mean, you guys have people do go to jail, and you guys have to maintain an environment. How's it affected the jail?
COVID.
Yes.
Uh, I can't say I know for sure. I know that incarcerated people are under higher risk.
Hmm.
For a while, the jail was not doing testing. I think they are now.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're understaffed as well.
Okay.
I know that there was a recent issue in the paper about a man who died in jail back in 2019, and some staff were accused of manslaughter. And that's very troublesome to me. I raised that issue back when it happened. I would say that currently we have a totally Health West is managing the medical and the psychological piece of jail.
Right.
And I know the person who's the doctor for it, and I know her very well. She goes to my church. She's excellent.
Hmm.
And they too had trouble finding staff that could, to hire. But the mental health part and the medical part is under different management. Before it was a privatized thing. Now it's in-house through
Hmm.
Health West. And I expect to see a big improvement.
Well, I want to leave the commission for a second. Let's talk about Help West. What is Help West, and what services does it provide?
Well, basically, Health West is mental health services. It includes foster care. It includes face-to-face counseling, as well as virtual counseling. They are there's a private system, the psychotherapists in private practice, the agencies, et cetera. And community mental health handles mainly the indigent, or the people of lower financial means.
Hmm.
And maybe I know Medicaid, Medicare. Uh, uh, so it's a tough job,
Hmm.
and I think it's well managed uh, under very tough circumstances currently with COVID. They have provided huge help to public health in administering the vaccines, and I know public health is very, very appreciative of that,
Hmm.
because they were sorely understaffed.
And
Uh,
the numbers for mental health are, and domestic violence and stuff like that, are insane right now.
yes, they are. They are getting more and more people come in the door. needing services, and they, like I said, are very understaffed. So it's a stressful situation, no question about that. I think they do a fantastic job. From what I hear in the community, they're there when it's needed. They're there at um, the school for kids who are homeless and dropout. What's the name of it? I hear that they're just right there providing everything they can for
Mhm.
the people that go there. So
Now, go back to the commission. I do know that the jail is hiring, and so
okay,
they have been hit, and they are looking for people. And so, to our listeners and the people watching on Facebook, that there are jobs out there for people, um, like now, and
hmm
it's important to get that out. Um,
and I
Commissioner,
know
go
one
ahead.
of the issues that I've support is really looking at the bail bond system,
Hmm.
because what happens right now is that there are a disproportionate number of people who are poor in the jail because they can't make bail.
Hmm.
Those with money get out. Um, they're not waiting in jail for their trial, and there's certainly delays in the court system because of COVID. So it's more of a problem, uh, And then there's other uh, criminal uh, reform stuff going on that not putting people in for uh, uh, certain drug charges that they
Yes,
used
certain
to, and
minor.
it certainly impacted the Black community.
Hmm.
And So a lot less of that is going on, but I couldn't tell you how much.
We're writing down the interview with you. I really
Mhm.
appreciate it. Um, how can people help you with the county commission? What is your email address? How can we help?
Right. The I really encourage people to get on the meetings. Virtually, it's a lot easier through
Right.
virtual meetings, and you do that by going on the county website and then going to county government, and you scroll to the bottom where the meeting schedule. It has full board meeting or county or committee meeting, whatever. You click on that meeting that you're interested in to see the agenda, and the
Hmm.
link will be on that agenda, and also instructions on how to raise your hand and lower your hand if you're on the phone. So it's all there, so you can see the agenda, and if it's something that you want to speak to. And I encourage you. Well, you can also speak you have 2 minutes to speak. The public has 2 minutes to speak on an issue. Uh, if you want to speak on an agenda item, an item that we are going to be voting on, uh, it's before the agenda,
Hmm.
and you can only speak on those issues we're going to vote on. And then at the end of the meeting, you can speak on anything. It's again 2 minutes,
Hmm.
and uh, yeah, we've had a lot, but it's been pretty lopsided lately. So I really encourage people uh, to um, to get on and provide some balance.
Right.
My
It,
email, I always forget my county email. It's Hovey Wright MA. That's HOVEY, no hyphen, WRIGHTMA at muskegoncounty.net. I think it is.
that's
It,
correct.
it, it is good.
That's correct.
There are two of them, so I get mixed up with them sometimes.
Commissioner, I want to thank you for coming
Sure.
on the show. I want you to know that you have an open invitation anytime to come on to talk about the issues that is happening with the
Okay.
county.
Okay. Thank you. That's a nice invitation. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Take
Okay.
care. Have a
Good
good
seeing you
day.
again, Greg Roberts.
All
Bye bye.
right. See you later. All right. It is the bottom of the hour. Our next guest is here, and we're just going to go right into this. Uh, he has a doctorate. He's a professor. I was watching some of his speaking engagements. He's spoken. This is do me a favor, share this post right now, because you're going to want to hear this next individual. What he has to say is very important. Now, I'm going to get him on right away. He's a professor, but he's also he has a doctorate. So I don't know if he wants to be named Dr. David Eltis or Professor David Eltis, but it's only one way to find out is to get him on. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, David's fine.
Hi, Dave. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so grateful for you. I know it's a time challenge. I am so grateful for you getting on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. It is lengthy, but it is so important.
Well, first of all, I'm retired, so I have a lot more time than I used to have. Well, I may do. But I've been working on the slave trade for, over half a century, back in the 1960s. And in the course of that time, I've been at 3 or 4 universities, retired in 2012, but I continued work on the slave trade database, which we started, I guess, back in, I think it can probably dated to the 1970s. And for those of you that have not had a chance to look at it, I urge you to do so. It's at www.slavevoyages.org. That's all one word. And it gives you access to no less than 36,000 transatlantic slave trade voyages, including the details of where they were going, who was on board, and who was responsible for dispatching them. We've also got 12,000 intra-American voyages, which are voyages that set out from one part of the Americas to go to another part. In the US, of course, the biggest intra-American traffic was from the Old South to the New South. Mm-hmm. We haven't actually got we haven't actually got the records of those individuals up yet, but we will hope to do so. We will do so before the end of this year. Mm-hmm. So if you want to know about the slave trade, rather than listen to me, you should simply go to that site and play around with it, because you can pose questions, and when you've selected whatever it is you're interested in, you can do interesting things with it. Plus, there's a great video reconstruction, 3D reconstruction.
That 3D, yes.
Of a slave ship, but the most spectacular feature of the site is the what we call the time-lapse feature, and that too is available on the home page. You just click on it, and it'll show you, give you a brilliant and horrifying pictorial image of vessels crossing the Atlantic over a period of, depending on the speed with which you run it, 3 to 7 minutes. So you can get a summary of 300 years of slave trading, 350 years of slave trading, in about 3.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dave, you won't believe this. I hear this a lot, and maybe you have heard it a lot too, is that it's 2021. I wasn't born then. We don't, should I have to worry about something that happened back then? I know.
Right. We have certain issues, social issues today arising from the transatlantic slave trade. I think that's one very good reason. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I guess we need to know the history of human beings at some level,
right,
and what they're capable of doing. And the slave trade was not unique. Well, it was unique in one or two senses, but it wasn't the only slave trade in history. It just happened to be the biggest forced migration that we know about in global history. And I think everybody's got a responsibility to know something about it.
I was amazed. I just started with Ancestry to search my history back, and I've got as far as back as Virginia. And
Right.
then, as you said, and then as I was looking at the website, then a lot, we don't know. I mean, you have to do a lot of searching on, okay,
Yeah.
where you go next. And this site is just wonderful about helping you out on some of that stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't take you across the Atlantic back to Africa on an individual basis, but we can tell you if you found, if you've traced your ancestors back to Virginia, we can tell you which part of Africa people that arrived in Virginia originated. And that's very helpful. Plus, we've got the actual names of people involved in the inter-American slave trade that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And that should be, when it's up anyway, should be a great benefit to those tracking back their ancestors, because those names, a good number of those names would eventually appear in the census, the first census, which included African Americans in 1870.
People, I think this is torn in two, Dave here. Extensive history, extensive work. Tell me, how long have you been in the studies of what you do?
I would say about 1970.
Wow.
But there's a lot of people been involved apart from me. We've had hundreds of people contribute to the site. We've had major grants over the years, starting in the 1990s. We had a CD-ROM published with a preliminary segment of the date of the slave trade in 1999, and then we went on the web 2008, and we've expanded considerably since then, and just completed a total recode of the site and added all sorts of new features. So it's I've been in this business for 5 decades now.
Right, and you happen to be an author as well.
Well, yes, this was very much a sideline to my academic studies of the slave trade. I've published books and articles, of course, quite apart from the site. And I'd particularly like to draw attention to the Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, which actually does things and gives you information which is not available on the site. And that was published in 2010. It was co-authored with David Richardson, and it's published by Yale University Press, and it's readily available on places like Amazon if you don't go to the press website. And it's not expensive.
What do you say to African Americans first about the history? Why we should know our history? Because there's so much stuff going on, and the waters are muddy. But why is it important for us and Caucasians as well? Why is it important to know the history?
I think it gives, if you know the history well, it gives you a completely different insight, version of U.S. history. I think, well, let me just give you one fact which came out from my work 30 years ago, which is that, in fact, the Americas was an extension of Africa rather than an extension of Europe, down to about 1830. And by that, I mean, we know that more Africans came to the Americas than Europeans in every year down to 1830, possibly 1840, when the huge migration, of course, from Europe to Americas began. And of course, in recent years, That's changed because there's more people coming from Asia and indeed all over other parts of the Americas. But just to hang on to that basic fact that if you want to understand American history, you have to recognize that there just were more Africans than Europeans involved in the early stages of it.
Wow. 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 Tell us that's a fantastic fact. You have any more nuggets of facts that you would like to share?
Uh,
I don't want to put you on the spot, but you know what? We should have had you for a whole hour. I just wanted to let you know that anytime you want to come back, you have an open invitation, because in reading about this that you got and the information that you guys put on this website and the 3D dramatization of the slave ship and what it would have been, is just fascinating, but it's also humble for me to see what my ancestors went through.
yeah, yeah. Yes. And rather than me talking for an hour, you should actually
Go to the website. Go to the
yeah.
website.
I mean, it's even if you just look at the major features and learn to do a basic search, like when did Africans come to the Americas, and how many were there, and how many died on the passage. Those basic facts you can get very, very quickly from the site.
I was told this, and the person who said it to me probably is going to kill me, but oh well. When I started to do my ancestry, and they looked at me and said, "Well, you guys have it better here, and you just don't seem like you're happy to be in America." Needless to say, my jaw dropped.
Well, that attitude is not quite as extensive as it used to be. Let's look on the bright side.
Yeah, yes. But I was quite amazed that I did hear that. But let's get back to the website. So on the website, you said that you can do a search.
Yes, yeah. It's there's a number of variables across the top of the site that allows you to choose what you're interested in, and I'm just looking at here. So when you get to the site, you'll see you've got the choice between the transatlantic, the inter-American databases, but also we've got a database of African names,
Hmm.
the names of people. We have close to 100,000 of people who, and this is quite rare, actually had their African names recorded.
Wow.
And I know that's not a lot compared to the total slave trade, which is, more than 12.5 million, but it still allows you to get a glimpse of the humanity of the individuals that were
Did
taken
you
on
say
board.
12.5 million?
Yes, I did. Yeah, over a period of 370 years. Yeah, and about probably 1.5 million died leaving. 1.5 million died on the passage, or died before boarding the ship. So we have 10.7 arriving in the Americas, and it's quite a tiny share of that who actually arrived in what is now the United States. That's a second fact that people don't realize, I think. Perhaps less than 400,000 of the 12.5, well, let's say of the 10.7 million that arrived in the Americas, only 400,000 or slightly less actually disembarked in what became the United States.
Mm.
And people find that not quite consistent with what they see today. But what happened was that the United States happened to have a large part of its territory in temperate areas,
Hmm.
and the vital rates, by which I mean birth rates and mortality rates, were better for both blacks and whites in in the north, and of course in the same temperate regions in Brazil in the south. So the natural rate of population growth tended to be greater, despite the cruelties of slavery. The demographic performance, if you like, of people disembarking in the United States was greatly superior to those arriving in the Caribbean and Brazil.
Les is talking about the extensive research to true American history. Thank you, Liz, so much for your comment. Uh, I find I'm so amazed that the very things that you are talking about. I mean, you taught at some prestige colleges. You've traveled all over the world. A lot of the things that you're very saying that we don't hear in schools.
That's true. On the plus side, I, we are getting. When I say we, I mean the site that we're talking about is in fact getting usage from schools right down actually to elementary school levels. So it's maybe that situation will change.
Hmm.
And we also have lesson plans written into the site
Oh,
for
good.
teachers. So there are resources there. And
Now
we are,
we're talking about
yeah,
slavevoyagers.org.
that's it. www.slavevoyages.org.
That's
And yeah, so we're getting about right now between 1,600 and 2,000 visitors a day.
how many?
About averaging about 1,700 to 1,800 visitors a day to the site.
Okay.
And over the course of the last 12 years, because we launched in 2008, I think we've had about 3 million people visit the site. Gets a lot of usage in universities, but increasingly it's used by genealogists, and as I said a few minutes ago, in several schools, quite a few schools as well. So I'm hopeful that a lot of the facts, if you like, that I laid out before will become more generally known
Hmm.
over the next little while. We have plans for expansion, and more important, as far as the future is concerned, we've established a consortium which actually will run the site from now on. It's not just associated with one university. We've got actually six major institutions contributing to support the project, including the amazing African American Museum in Washington. They too are part of this consortium.
Dave, now for people that are watching or people that are listening, you don't look like me, uh, which is probably a blessing for you, but you don't look like me. You don't have the skin color that I have, but
Well,
yet you are profoundly just so smart and detailed to this. What made you get into this subject?
uh, wow. Looking around for a thesis, I guess, years ago. Um, I go back to the civil rights movement. I was then living in England. I didn't come to North America until I was in my 20s. But I think the civil rights movement certainly got me interested. I began looking at abolition, trying to find out why this thing actually was ultimately suppressed. And then I quickly realized that a lot of facts just weren't available.
Mm-hmm.
And I set about trying to rectify that. Me, and as I have to stress, like a lot of others too, this isn't just my project. Right
Right.
now, the site is based not at Emory but at Rice University,
Okay.
and we have a team, of which I'm still a part, that handle it.
I want to talk because I've heard people say this about healing of slavery.
Yes,
That maybe the hearings like they had in South Africa with
right.
apartheid
Yeah,
might be something that is needed in America. Um,
yeah.
what do you think? Is there something that can be done as far as the healing of slavery?
Well, I think hearings like that would be useful, if only to spread the word,
Hmm.
because we now know so much more than we did in the middle of the last century. Slavery was just a side topic. It wasn't mainstream at all. You could do a degree in U.S. history and really not do much about slavery at all, except the Civil War. And even then, it was taught. We were taught that it wasn't always to do with race anyway.
Hmm.
So uh, I think we've got the knowledge now, but what we don't have is the platform
Right.
to make it generally known, and some some type of hearings that you were talking about would be very appropriate.
Right. So I think that that platform is definitely something is needed to address the fact that slavery was real, as you said, as a fact that more African Americans came over than anybody else.
Right,
Though that is information that a lot of people don't know. And the other
absolutely.
thing is that this country was built on the backs of free labor on slavery,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's an issue that is not taught in schools.
yeah,
And for the people that are sitting up going, "Oh, here we go again, slavery,
yeah.
slavery." No, this is a very important issue that needs to be addressed, and is not going to be whitewashed. No
Hmm.
pun intended. It's
Right.
not going to go away, but it's an issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, um, absolutely. In universities, it was always a side topic, really, until as late as 1960s, and the same with African history. African history was simply ignored for many years. People were saying, "Well, Africa doesn't have a history."
Wow, wow, wow. You, you're saying that people have said that Africa didn't have a history.
Uh,
What Africa has a huge history on the Americas, but also is Africa has a huge history. Period.
of course, absolutely. I think this opinion. You never hear it now, but certainly when I started out in the 1960s, it was quite common. And I'm talking here of major scholars that had all sorts of awards and honors, actually saying this sort of thing. And at least that part of it has disappeared from the table.
Hmm.
But of course, much more needs to be done.
As we're wrapping up, we only have several minutes left. I just want to pick your brain. Is there any topic that you would like to get out there that we didn't discuss today? I do want you to know again, we want to have you on again. I know there's a time, and you're a very busy man, but we really want to pick your brain on the things that maybe we can do or what you would suggest. Are there anything you suggest that we should do as people?
Uh, well, the you can plug the site. The site's there. It's free.
Right, right,
It's a starting point.
right. It's a free site. The site is incredible. Is knowledgeable, like you said. Colleges use it. It's extensively brilliant. And not only that, I was watching some of your speeches on YouTube. You really need to hear what this man has to say, because it's important for the healing of this country. Because in the last couple of years, we've gone backwards when it comes down to education, and I think that we need to head back.
Well, healing means really everybody knowing what happened,
Hmm.
because they don't, and when they do, I think the battle is half won.
We have a request from Liz that said, repeat the titles of the books again, please.
Oh well, I mean, my books.
They can just use your name and go to
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah, but I'd particularly recommend the Atlas, which I.
Oh, yeah, I looked at the Atlas. Would you talk a second about that Atlas? That was brilliant.
Yeah, and that was co-authored with David Richardson, and it's got 187 color plates, which show basically the history of the slave trade, and in a series of dramatic maps with path graphics linking Africa with the Americas, and of course it's also stuffed full of fact, but it's presented in quite an attractive format with stories as well. And of all my books, I would say that's the most accessible.
Okay.
I'd recommend it, and it's still in print.
It's still. And so people, you hear that, get that Atlas
It's called The Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade.
go out and get that book. I will be ordering it as soon as we get off. So hopefully we will pump up the sales of your books.
Well, sure.
We will have that link to that site too, because that link is incredible. Especially right now, a lot of you have kids, teenagers, people at home that are need some information. And here's a credible site that you can see the history of slavery, including, I was just amazed about the 3D video of showing what a slave ship would involve. It was just incredible to me, but there was this feeling, a lump in my throat to know that our people went through that.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite moving.
You said that it is now being ran by Rice University.
Yes, it's the hosting institution is now Rice. Yeah.
Okay. If is there a website? Is there any way that if people wanted to get in touch with you, they can, or should they just use the website?
Yeah, we actually have a team of people that answer questions posed to the website. So we have a listserv. The address is on the site.
Okay.
And you can send us questions. Some of them we might not be able to answer, but most of the time we can say something.
Professor, doctor, I want to give you all the credentials that you have out there,
No,
which are a lot.
I'm fine.
But I want to say thank you. And again, I want to tell you that we could have you on, like you said, instead of having you on for an hour, go to the website. But there's an extensive history that you have,
Yeah.
and we'd love to pick your brain. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, my pleasure. Good to talk to you.
All right. What's that website again? So we'll give it to
www.slavevoyages.org. It's all one word, no spaces.
All right. Take care. All
Okay.
right. That's the end of the show, people. That's Touring the Two for this week. Take care and God bless.
On behalf of everyone in our community,